In the shadow of conflict, humanity's most basic right crumble. War zones are where the darkest side of human nature often prevail. Innocent lives shattered, families torn apart, and voice is silenced. In this chaotic landscape, human rights become an afterthought, and justice seem like a distant dream. Today, the topic of discussion: human rights and humanitarian issue, challenges and global solution. You are watching Think Poll with Waqas Abdullah.
Hi everyone, you are watching Think Poll and I'm Waqas Abdullah. Today the topic of our discussion is the human rights and humanitarian issues, challenges and global solution. Malaysia, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Bye.
Ikra, thank you Ikra for joining us third time. It means a lot to me.
Oh, thank you.
Mohammad Ahmed joining us from Pakistan. Thank you very much, Ahmed, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pizza, for joining us from Pakistan, from GCU Lahore. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Ikra, I would like to start with you about basic questions regarding the human rights. You all must be aware about what's going on in Afghanistan, especially if we can focus about the human rights crisis in the Palestine and in the Ukraine. How can you see all this scenario in the world arena regarding the human rights?
All right. Thank you so much, Vikas, for such a good question. So when we talk about the human rights, it is not something that's just two words or a topic that we can discuss in any panel. It is something which is our birthright. We all have access to it. And right now, all around the world, you can see that we all have been like a victim of human rights discrimination in any of the scenario, rather being it a Muslim, being in India, being in Afghanistan, as you already mentioned. So let me talk about the Afghanistan case. We all are aware how Taliban invaded Afghanistan and how women, they are banned to even go to school. Not only that, about the school education, there are forced marriages, there are illegal human trafficking that is going on. The girls are sold to 40-year-old male, just an 8-year-old girl, just to bear kids, like 10 kids. Some of them are forced to have 10 kids at the age of 16 or 17, and that's how they are like raising their women. There's a fear in their heart. They're not even allowed to live properly. The basic right, that is the freedom of speech, is not there. The right to education is not there. Right to quality living is not there. If you will go and witness the internet even as well for the articles, you will observe that they don't even have the basic facilities that we deserve as a women, not even proper sanitary conditions. And because of that, a lot of females over there are suffering from health hazards that I feel ashamed to talk about, that they don't even have proper sanitization when it comes to their menstrual cycle. They suffer breast cancer, cervical cancers, and they die during labor because they are just at the age of 13 when they are giving birth to their fourth kid. So that is what is happening in Afghanistan. Apart from Afghanistan, if I talk about my own country as well, I would like to highlight that. Because discrimination is not only that what you see on media. Sometimes there is hidden discrimination, or the discrimination that you face because of your identity. And there's a sort of identity crisis that we have in India. Being a Muslim, no matter we are 30 crores Muslim here in India, and we still face some kind of fear in our heart that being a minority community, we will be easily targeted when it comes to terrorist activities, when it comes to basic rights. So these things are there in every country, but who is creating it? We are solely responsible for all these things. Now we talk about human rights, but we are not willing to give equal access to those human rights to everyone. Let's talk about the Palestine. It's been like years, but whatever we talk about is only 7th October 2024. That is the day everyone started talking about that something is happening in Palestine. And we know how women are being murdered. Like whole Palestine has been wiped out. The Gaza Strip, the safe zone, they are no longer safe zone. Even the last hospital, I guess last week it got bombed out. And the doctors, they were being stripped. The females, they were being forced to strip naked in front of their parents and their husbands. And if anybody will close their eyes, they'll be shot dead. So this is what we are happening, and the world is silent. We raise campaigns basically on social media. Even I used to do that. We used to about it when thing is happening. Even the humanitarian aid is not even the equal access to go to that zone to provide them the basic things. They are starving, and the cold wave is hitting. It's winters, so they are on the roads. Their tents are flooded, but no one is taking a stand for that. Apart from that, there was one more country that you mentioned. Can you please repeat that? Afghanistan.
I'm talking about Myanmar and North Korea as well.
Okay, North Korea. So, North Korea, we know that there since the Republic of Korea during the early 90s, when there was a partition. And we know that in that country, like the worst crisis we can say that is going on over there. It's not about the persecution or the kind of victimization that females or males are facing over there. The main problem is that they don't even have right to anything. They have specific haircuts that they have to follow. They're not even allowed to say any word in English. They're not even allowed to watch English movies. Like I have some of my friends in South Korea, so I was discussing this issue with them. So they told me that one of their cousin long cousin who was just living over there in North Korea. So their family got persecuted just because they saw an American movie. Tough as a government or as an organization, let it be UN or anyone, on any individual, on any human, that you're supposed to follow specific things. So human rights violation in a nutshell is going on everywhere.
Yeah, thank you very much
That's
for
what.
highlighting some essential topics regarding the human rights. Mohammed Ahmed, I would like to ask to you, highlighted some
Connection
essential point
instability.
Ikra highlighted some essential point regarding the human rights in Afghanistan on the banning of the education of the women, and highlighted the other factors as well. So my question is to you that in the
Yeah,
Palestine, why we are talking about when come to the Palestine, the genocide of the Muslim nation, why we just remind 7 October? And other thing it is, why we're not talking about this since of the beginning of the main issue? Where is the international organization about this issue that who are recognized the face of the saving of the human rights in the nation?
Palestine. Yeah, it's really October, and they are not going back to the root cause. So this is kind like what I have understood. It is kind of political agenda. Like, firstly, there are two nations that are actually fighting on, and when 7 October happens, it you know uh, it comes up to the global horizon, and people started talking about it, and then the onslaught come to mainstream. Before that, we don't have actually access to the information regarding the Palestine issue, which is also a human right, and globally people are not well aware about it. And before that, there are so many political issues going on in the world, all over the world. There was Ukraine crisis, there was then this wave of terrorism going on, global wave of terrorism, and between that, it got like some kind of disappeared from the mainstream. So some kind of every year things happen, and you know there is also in 2021 a clash between Hamas and Israel happened, but it doesn't upscaled so much. And previously also that when you go in 2000s or in 90s, these kind of issues going on, but it doesn't like continuously coming on to the mainstream or people started to has become like a global incident so much that Generation Z actually got involved into that. Before that, Generation Z wasn't involved in.
Okay, I got your point. Fiza, would you like to add something into this point about the Gen Zs? How an individual raise voice for the awareness of the human rights, especially to the concern of the Gen Zs? I'm talking about Mohammed Ahmed mentioned the role of the Gen Zs into the Palestine issues. Would you like to add something into it? The role of the individual person, especially focus on the Gen Zs, how the Gen Zs have been improved the pace and how they start their activities regarding the using the social media about the human rights.
I'm sorry. In the context of human rights violation, Gen Z plays a pivotal role in advocating for marginalized communities activities. For instance, during the Black Lives Matter movement, Gen Z utilized social media to organize protests, share information, amplify the voice of those affected by systematic racism. Their digital fluency enables them to disseminate information rapidly, counter misinformation, and engage global audience in human rights discussion. And uh, about the Gen Z is also face challenges in their advocacy efforts. The prevalence of misinformation and digital surveillance can hinder their activism. Additionally, the digital divide may limit access to information and participation for some individuals within this generation. Expect the human rights violation and uh, in Ukraine, Afghanistan, the Taliban returns to power has human rights ban on education, and the Ukraine war, biggest war that can be able in the human rights. If we take the example of Syria,
Jonathan, I'm talking about in that Ika highlighted an essential point about the discrimination and the other points regarding the human rights. I'm talking about the Palestinian and the Gen Z's role in the human rights. These are talking about the Syrian crisis. The one and other point regarding the human rights is the donation to the countries. Is the donation is enough for the human rights in the war zones?
So, in my opinion, I don't think so it's enough. Because you see, this conflict group of people, and based on ICRA's and the other panels' opinions, the Gen Zs, so what I can see from here is that coming from a communication background and coming from a humanitarian background, is that when you target a certain audience, a certain group of people, and you implement sexual violence, and where in a country where the law is weak, and you use media to target people, and then nowadays Gen Zs, I will not say Gen Zs, I will say the current generation right now is that they're becoming more smarter. So if you were to make donations to a country, I mean, okay, there are thousands and thousands of people are actually injured by this war. So do you think that, I mean, in my opinion, I don't think so that the donations they make will reach out to the people, certain people. It might be, there might be discrimination going on there. There might be, they will just give to a selective group of people. So I don't think so it's worth it enough. I don't know, you see when they ask us to make donations to the Palestinians, to the Afghanistan, to Syria, to Myanmar, we as civilians will be like, okay, this, when we make a donation, is this going to go to the people? Because last time they've already tampered with the money, the donations that we have made. There were money laundering has involved. So yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, Ikra. Uh, the essential thing it is about the human rights, not even done by the country to another country in the war zone. If we can see, as you mentioned earlier, about in Afghanistan, the same government are been doing a violation of the human right with their own citizens. Even those things are being happen in North Korea. Even those things are being done in the other countries like North Korea, in Myanmar as well. They are being doing with their own citizens.
And secondly, the countries, those who are in power, the developed nations, they are not providing the equal access, or they are setting an agenda of free, a kind of delusion information about human rights. All right, so in order to that, first of all, there is a very simple thing about any country. Nobody can invade in your privacy or your country if your own system is not weak. So the countries like Afghanistan or North Korea or any other country, like we talk about the Rohingya in China or Myanmar, what they are doing, they are themselves are responsible for harming their own individual. So there is already a loophole in the judiciary, in the system, or the rules that are going on over there. And if there is a flaw, anybody can equally have an access to the situation, and they can get benefit from it. So that is why the invasion of Taliban, we can say, or any other terrorist groups in those countries, is because their own judicial system is not that strong. Moreover, there are kind of, we can say, impurities are there, rather be it corruption, rather be discrimination, or power in the wrong hands. So when we talk about the monarchy, also in some states there is monarchy, which is leading to some kind of capitalism and other issues. However, the democracies are also facing the same issue. But the main thing is that the strong body at the grassroots level, which is forming the laws and causing the execution of those laws, are not prominent and strong enough to hold on for the citizens' welfare. Apart from that, yes, the P5 nations that we talk about, they play a very vital role in shaping the world. Let's talk about the very recent scenario when there was a resolution that was passed in ICJ for the arrest of the current Prime Minister of the Israel. US, because of using its veto power, it easily denied and back off. However, if US would have wanted, they would have said yes to the resolution and the war crimes they would have been stopped long ago. But it didn't happen. So those countries which are having power, or the developed countries like UK, US, and Russia, they generally have more power and they misuse it. So this misuse of power is also a major scenario, we can say. Because of that, the underdeveloped nations or the poor countries are suffering. And more like in a nutshell, I would say not only the poor countries, the individuals are suffering, the inhabitants of the earth are suffering. So just because of few people who are wrong at the top scale, we can say supreme level, because of that, those who are at the lower ground scale level, they are being suffered. So this has to be stopped right away, because government or any organization, as Abraham Lincoln said, it's of the people, by the people, and for the people. But right now, what we can say, there is nothing, people is not there. The government is just for themselves and for their benefits. So that has to be stopped. That's
Okay.
what I think in my perspective.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mohammed Ahmed, what is the solution for all these things? How can we stop the human rights violation by using the different organization? What framework have been to give to the international organization? What is the loop holes into the framework of the different organization, in your opinion?
Because you are talking about the international organizations, role of international organizations,
Yes,
if
and
I
the
understood
loophole
it right.
and the loopholes in the international organization. What do you believe it, in your opinion? What circumstances into the different organization? What the loopholes in the inter-organization? How can they improve it for the betterment of the human rights?
Okay, I think some technical issues going on, so I turn off the camera to have this smooth going on. I will turn it on again. So what is the there are so many loopholes, you can say, regarding the international organization currently, what I have understood. And in my opinion, number one loophole is that we are in a global system and there's globalization. But the thing is, global system is not run on any particular law. There are laws, there are conventions, but they are not being respected by the states, individual states. There are some powerful states and there are some weaker states. And as the student of international relations, we know the world is working on realistic principles. Those who have the power, they have this right, they claim this right to upend the law, to change the law, to mend the law in their interest. And they are using these organizations, which are right now in the world, you can say United Nations or Human Rights Watch, for their own interests, because the funding is linked to the budget of these states.
Fiza, in your opinion, what is the loophole in the international organizations regarding the human rights? And would you like to mention about these loopholes and address these issues? And in your opinion, what the framework the international organization have been used to address and save the human from the violation of the human rights?
First of all, I have to tell about the role of international organization. The role of international organization like the UN that have to address the crisis of often faces criticism, allow powerful countries to black action to block actions against allies, inadequate fundings and dependency on member state cooperation limit the reach and effectiveness of organizations like Amnesty International and Human Watch. Furthermore, enforcement mechanisms are weak, with many perspectives of human rights violations, avoiding accountability. These gaps highlight the need for laws, unbiased implement global and regional organizations to protect human rights.
Yeah, Fiza, No, sorry, Jonathan. Fiza mentions about the role of the regional organizations as well. Would you like to mention the loopholes, in your opinion, in the regional organization and how the how the regional organization play a role for the to eradicate and stop the violation of the human rights in their own country?
So in my opinion, the first loophole will be the government itself. So in Myanmar, where the journalists were supposed to tell what was going on, they were silenced. They were assassinated. So I guess that will be the first loophole where the government, where the regional um, organization has to work with the government on holding accountability and advocating the human rights by not assassinating these journalists, this kind of people who are actually talking about what's happening in the country. So when we talk about accountability, they have to monitor, they have to check they have to produce testimonies, the pictures, the videos, not tampering it, because we are living in a technology area where anything can be done. So that's the first loophole. And the second loophole is that the civilians, those people who are in the country itself, they should pledge loyalty to their own country rather than backstabbing, rather than doing something that would actually impact their own people and the country. And then when we talk about um money laundering, when we talk about money donations, when we talk about killing a target group of people, I guess all of these are the number one. I mean, they always say government is the backbone, but I guess that number one loophole is the government. So they have to
Okay.
work with the government and then
Okay.
care of.
Yeah, I got your point. So Ikra, the delegates have been agree about the human rights violation if within a country it's due to the poor government and due to the personal interest of the government. What do you believe it? Which organization, regional organization or the international organization, work better for to save the lives and also to save the human rights and eradicate the human right violation within a state?
Okay, thank you, Vikas, for the question. So when we talk about that government is at fault, I cannot completely deny it in my opinion that there is no fault of government. Yeah, there is a fault of government, but just some of the powerful civilians are also involved in that. And when it comes to whether the international organizations can work well or the regional organizations, individually they cannot work well. Because when we talk about international organizations, they have loopholes and restrictions. They cannot intervene in the boundaries of a specific country. Or we talk about ICJ, they cannot take interest or any sort of war crimes or cases of non-state members. So this is the drawback when we talk about the international organization. Apart from that, regional organizations, they face the major crisis. That major crisis is that they have very limited access to that specific region. So if something is limited to that region, obviously they cannot expand it to around the world. So my suggestion or a proper solution would be that these regional organizations, along with the international organizations like UN and those NGOs which are collectively working to help the human society, they can work together collectively and creating a strong framework with the support of the government, where the governments are also not compromised, because we cannot give full access to these organizations about certain things because every government has their own policies. But it has to be done in such a way that there has to be clear transparency. Proper monitoring must be there, and advocacy. If something goes wrong, they should be accountable to give an answer to the authority that why this thing goes wrong, or the use of the chemicals if we talk about the wars or the humanitarian crisis right now. If it is banned, but still countries are using those chemicals, which are really nuclear weapons even right now, they have been used lately. So they have to be banned. And if something is banned, proper action should be taken, that thing should be implemented.
So we are moving toward to the final conclusion. Mohammed Ahmed, what's your final remarks on the human rights? How we can improve it? How we can eradicate or minimize the human rights violations?
Okay, so coming to the conclusion, Vikas, here I would like to address one thing like humans are actually, if we see the historically, we are facing some philosophical issues right now, the generation, and we are going through many psychological problems as well. So, firstly, the whole global community should have to like get into alignment on the definition of human rights, because there are humans that are actually committing evil and inhuman activities, and they are actually violating the human rights. There is no other entity, like there is no any other organism which are actually trying to violate the human
Okay.
rights. These are
Okay.
humans actually which are,
Hmm.
so we
Okay.
have to distinct the evil within us, within our societies, and we have to identify it. And coming to the global solution last, we have to make the processes and mechanisms strong and strengthen. So that's how we are going
Okay.
to come
Okay.
to the
Okay.
global solution.
Fiza, in your opinion, how we can improve the human rights and eradicate the human rights violations within a state? What measures has been taken by the state to do all these things?
Human rights and humanitarian issues are significant challenges affecting millions globally, particularly in regions experiencing conflict, poverty, and natural disaster. For instance, in Myanmar, the Rohingya crisis has led to severe human rights violation and a large-scale humanitarian emergency. If we talk about international cooperation, that in, is essential in developing effective strategies to tackle these issues. Organizations like the United Nations advocate for human rights and provide humanitarian aid to those in need. For example, the UN has been actively involved in addressing the Rohingya crisis by providing assistance to refugees and calling for accountability for human rights abuses. Additionally, the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement play a crucial role in delivering aid during emergencies such as natural disaster and conflict, and
Okay.
ensuring the vulnerable population receive
Okay. Okay.
necessary support.
I got it.
Uh,
I got it.
and the
Uh,
Geneva Convention.
Okay, I got it. Janatha, in your opinion, how the state has been going to adopt different policies regarding to save the human rights and ensure the human rights within the state? You must highlight some essential points about like which is mentioned by the Ahmed about the unification and social awareness. In your opinion, what main points has been adopted by the government to ensure the human rights within a state?
So, in my opinion, okay, based on my country, they have taken certain measures to actually create awareness when it comes to technology. So I do agree that we are from the Gen Z, and whatever we see on social media, sometimes it cannot be taken as gospel gold and glory. So we need to actually learn about it. So the government's actually created awareness where we are supposed to verify the issues. And second of all is that based on every countries that I see, they're taking the initiative to eradicate the discrimination in human rights. That means it's like when refugees were to seek help, there will not be a certain selective group of people that would, they will look at, but, rather than everybody. And also, when it comes to human, we all are humans, okay? But that's the thing here. They have to create, and the government actually is creating in US actually when Trump came over, he's actually banning TikTok, which is very good, by the way, because you see, social media tends to play a role in humans' life. And the more we spend time on social media, we don't even know that is true or right. And sometimes there will be identity crisis, there will be a lot of things going on. So yeah, the usage of social media, what we post, what are we learning, what we see, what we perceive, that all plays a role. And yeah, that would be my opinion.
Okay. Ikra, in your opinion, which measure has been taken by the government to ensure the human rights insist of to promote the human rights violation in their own country?
All right. So, since I totally agree with whatever the panel has mentioned, those points are really crucial and they have to be addressed. Apart from that, in my own personal opinion, I believe that addressing the root cause would be the better solution than thinking about what could be done. Because the root cause why these all things are occurring, humanitarian crisis and all, are not being addressed. Let's talk about the simple thing that is poverty, inequality, discrimination, lack of awareness. So these things has to be addressed first, and automatically, if they are sorted out, the problem of humanitarian crisis or wars would be nowhere in future. For that, we can initiate by starting from the very pioneer stage, since we are human and we have to maintain dignity. So, in order to have healthy minds in human, the first crucial step could be taken with our education system. Implementing some laws and curriculums in those human structures, like in such a way that human beings are being taught in school that what could be done to eradicate those grassroots level causes that are causing humanitarian crisis. Apart from that, also mentioning those things that can lead to the negative outcome, because we live in a very positive world, although we don't live it, and it's very harsh to say, but we always want to look at the positive side, that do this, you will get that, but we never show the negative aspect. So if it is being taught to the kid that if you are dealing with the illegal trafficking or something, then there are these consequences that has to be shown to that kid at a very young age, so he is aware about the both sides, positive and negative, which could be done by awareness. So awareness, education, building strong framework from a very early age, and education is not only in the schools, in the regional sectors also, because if I talk about my own country, India, 70% population live in villages. So there, they don't even have education. So the government has to step in to provide those kind of awareness programs, campaigns, and for that, even the youth and kids, they have to actively participate in that, because we participate in everything when it comes to talent, but we never support, especially in developing countries. We need support from other organizations for us, but we never want to promote the cultural activities or the charity events or any sort of things which can promote to cultural welfare or societal welfare. So that has to be implemented in it, because I personally feel that I'm doing it online, but at regional level, we don't get it. So this has to be done, and hopefully it can be sorted out. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much to all of you, Janatha, Ikra, once again, Fiza and Mohammed Ahmed. Thank you very much for joining us. Literally, it means a lot to me. And thank you for participating in my discussion into the Think Forward. Means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
It's
Thank
a pleasure,
you.
Vikas. Thank you.
It's our
Thank you
pleasure.
so
Thank
much for
you.
having us.
So the discussion is come to an end. We highlighted some essential topics regarding the human rights. We talk about the state's behavior toward the human rights. We talk about some essential point like social awareness, the role of the gender in the human rights adaptation, and the several aspects of how the international organization are work toward the human rights. Why the international organization are silence on the case of the Palestine. We also highlighted what the human rights violation is going on in Afghanistan, in Myanmar, in the North Korea, in what the Russia has been done with the Ukraine. We highlighted some essential aspect, and we give some solutions regarding how the international organization, not even only international organization, but the regional organization strengthen their work to promote the human rights, not promote the violation of the human rights. So you are watching Think Forward. See you at the next episode. Thank you very much, and Allah Hafiz.